Hello and welcome to the Herdline Podcast, hosted by Trace Johnson and the Herds Headset. Thank you so much for tuning into today's episode where the Headset and Trace talk all things Marshall athletics. Be sure to follow us on X and subscribe to us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, or wherever else you listen to podcasts. Now, sit back, relax, and let's talk the herd. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Herdline Podcast. This is the Herd's Headset alongside of Trace Johnson, and we are so happy that you have been able to tune in for the first episode of this new year, 2026. We've got a jam-packed episode in store for everyone today. We're going to focus mostly upon the subject of the transfer portal. And all of you college football fans, you know this good and well, that the transfer portal is something that changes all the time. It's even as we're talking right now, and this is a Tuesday evening in which we are recording this, likely already been just, and so our very best to give you some names and some folks that we know that have come in, also some people that are on the way out, and then also some rumors a little bit later on in the episode of things we've heard. And it should be a great episode overall, and giving everybody some insight on what is happening with Marshall football and the transfer portal. But before we get into all of that, Trace, Happy New Year. How you doing?
Happy New Year, brother. It was a good one. I mean, getting back to work, though, has not been very fun, as I just told you before we started recording. But, that comes with the territory. But it's been a good New Year so far. Looking forward to big things this year, personally and for Marshall, So looking forward to that. And I think it's going to be a good one.
Yeah, absolutely. Looking forward to this brand new year of 2026. So with that being said, let's kick things off today. The transfer portal, like I said, it's something that is there's ebbs and flows to this. A wise man once said, "The portal giveth, and the portal taketh away." And
Yep.
so that is very, very true. And if you can recall last year, if you're a Marshall fan, you've been a Marshall fan for a long time, it was probably what I would say is the most devastating transfer portal period that I've ever seen at our school, and also arguably in the entire nation. Losing over 70 players is never something that is ideal, and it's very difficult to come back from that. However, in conversations that Trace and I have had in the past, and I'm sure all Marshall fans really have had throughout the last year or so, we have all come up with the conclusion that the fact that we were able to squeak out 5 wins, really, that's a big deal, and that goes back to coaching. It goes back to culture that's being built and all those things. However, when in spite of all of that being built, 2026, we are finding that there are still guys that are going to be leaving the program. And I've got a couple of names here that I just wanted to highlight as far as those that are leaving, because, a lot of these guys that are on this list, you don't necessarily hear much about them just because of the lack of playing time, and that is completely understandable. But there are some well-known names that Herd fans will look at and say, "Oh, well, that's kind of a blow."
Mm-hmm.
So, with that being said, I think the biggest blow for the transfer portal, as far as taking away from Marshall, would be the departure of Paul Hudson III. Of course, there were early reports, and he himself came out and said that he would not be leaving the program. However, things change, agents get involved, and minds are not always made up 100% whenever you post some of these things on social media, and that's exactly what happened to him. Another guy is Christian Richter, who's an offensive lineman, a starting offensive lineman. He's now in the portal and different things. A pair, or actually not a pair, but a trio of running backs that really was a lot of depth to our running back room. Justin William Thomas is gone. Michael Allen is in the portal, and then also Antoine Roberts has also entered into the portal. And then as far as a linebacker is concerned, we've got Jabril Al-Amin, who is in the portal as well. And then this was kind of shocking just the other day, because the initial reports told us that all of our quarterback room would be staying, and we had that overall thought process that was going to be the case. However, Ja'Kai Long has just recently, this last week, entered into the portal and is getting some offers from some FCS programs. So with that being said, those are some key guys that are leaving. And, Trace, just what do you think about all these guys? Again, there's more on this list that we could talk about. Randy Young, he was a running back that was, hopeful. KJ Jones, Jaden Johnson, a whole bunch of other names that we could just list off here about the potential of what they could have been. But, things happen, and they sometimes believe the grass can be greener on the other side. And so we do wish them luck. We hope that they are able to find a good landing spot. But Trace, give me some thoughts on some of these guys that are leaving.
Yeah, I mean, nothing surprises me. I mean, it's not even. I mean, I think I said, well, I know I said on one of those last episodes we did. Would it surprise me if there's guys that say that they're not going to enter and then enter? No, wouldn't surprise me, and it was honestly expected. I mean, you've got anytime. I mean, bottom line is anytime money's involved and money's in play, people are different. People, and I'm not even saying that like, oh, they're bad people, but that changes people. Money changes people, and the fact is that you've got these money hungry agents that are only looking out for themselves. They're not looking out for these student athletes at all. I mean, it's very evident they're out for themselves and they want to make a buck off of these players, and they're getting in these players. I mean, you got to keep in mind you're talking about 18 to 22-year-olds, by and large, 18 to 22-year-olds with people chirping in their ear saying, "Go here, go here, go here, go here." What are they going to do? They're going to probably go. So I mean, they're very impressionable at that age, especially when it comes to money. I mean, it is what it is. I mean, it's not honestly. I mean, really, the only one that really shocked me was Ja'Kai Long. I mean, I guess like Paul Hudson III saying that he was staying and then ended up leaving. That was sort of surprising, but he's a high quality player, so it wouldn't have surprised me that much if he went somewhere else. But Ja'Kai Long kind of surprised me, but I mean writings on the wall. He probably wasn't going to be the starter. I mean, at least especially if Carlos Dario Wilson comes back, which is still up in the air, of course. So you can't get too comfortable with anybody. I mean, it doesn't matter what it is. And, we have a great tradition and we've got a great brotherhood, and the culture is, like I said, is really improved a lot since last year. But at the end of the day, that can only sell you so far. You really have to, I mean, there's got to be more to it than that, especially if you're trying to keep a guy that a big Power 4 school wants. Odds are they're going to get him. So it is what it is. I said that on the episode that I mentioned as well, that I think we're going to be way better off. We're going to keep a lot more players than we lose. And I still think that's going to be the case. I don't think we're going to lose anywhere close. Well, clearly anywhere close to what we lost last year. But we were also going to lose some good players. It was inevitable. It's just the nature of the biz. So we'll lose some players, but we've got some guys coming back that are studs, and we got some new guys coming in that are going to, mix things up a little bit, and I think we'll be fine. But yeah, you can't, I mean, it's hard to even bat an eye. It's hard to even blink at anybody that when they leave anymore. It really is. So it is what it is, and I think we'll be fine.
Yeah, I agree with you. And the nature of college football totally is so different than what it used to be. We used to, really get to know these guys. If they didn't
Yeah.
start the first couple of seasons, they would just work harder and work their way in. Now, if they're not starting, they'll go to a lower level team, and they'll try their luck there. Or in some cases, in a lot of cases with Marshall, I've seen some starters, some key players end up going to what we would declare the next level, Power 4 type of team.
Yeah.
And there are some success stories. There's a couple of guys that we could look to and that we could say, yeah, that worked out for them. That was a good move. But the sad reality of the transfer portal is this: that most guys that go in and try to make more money and try to make a better name for themselves end up in a worse position than they would have been if they would have just stayed at where they
Yep.
were at. And that's why I always try and make sure that my social media account obviously doesn't mean a whole lot of anything as far as opinion is concerned to players. I understand that, but I still like to put the bug in the ear that the grass isn't always greener on the other side.
Nope.
You can try your luck, and I absolutely believe in betting on yourself. But can I even say it this way, that betting on yourself may not be going somewhere else. It's just proving that you are a professional level talent, where you are starting, where you are appreciated, where you do have a great opportunity to be great. And Marshall is a unique place because we're not in Akron. We're not Kent State. We're not one of the smaller school, UTEP, along those lines. We're a school that is very. It's easy to get to the NFL, quote unquote,
Yeah.
easier, I guess you could say, than it is in other places because we've got a good program. We always have a good coaching staff. We always have a culture of excellence, and so I hate to see some of these guys go. Zakai Long is someone that surprised me, like you said a second ago. Um, he's somebody that if you think back to the start of the season, Tony Gibson he literally came out and said that he is the future of this program. However, looks like there is different plans overall. And of course, as the season progressed forward, Jakai was brought out there against the Wolves in Georgia and then really failed to make much of an impact. And so we saw some of Zion Turner and Carlos kind of took over the reins. So overall, it is surprising that he's gone with such high praise from the coaching staff, but I can understand it. He wants to play. He wants to get into a position to where he is able to make a name for himself, and so that's completely okay. I wish him well. I wish Michael Allen and Antoine Roberts and Justin Williams Thomas well as well. Michael Allen really, I think, was the breakout star. Well, actually, I'd say Antoine Roberts at the end of this season was the breakout. Michael Allen was very steady, and I really think Justin Williams Thomas may have been our best runner, just didn't get very many touches
Right.
throughout the
Right.
season. So all these guys are great players. I really do wish them well. I hope that they're able to get into a position now to where they're able to have the success that they so desire. I do wish a couple of them would have stayed, but it is what it is. So, with that said, we said at the start, the portal does take, but the good news about the portal is it does give too. So, right now, Tony Gibson and his staff are very hard at work in trying to get some players to come in. And so far, there are a couple of names as of, again, Tuesday evening that we do know has made a commitment to be at Marshall this next season. And a couple notable ones would be Bernard B.J. Carter. He is a defensive lineman from Iowa State. And again, if you go to Iowa State, then you're probably going to be a decent player overall. He was recruited back whenever Tony Gibson was at NC State. And so now that relationship that was built in his initial recruitment has now landed him here later on in his career. So that's great news overall. So he committed to Marshall. And then we've also got a couple of other guys as well. We've got Jaquez Keys, who is a 6 foot 210 running back from Northwest Mississippi Community College. And the Keys was committed to Wake Forest as he went to Ironton High School, but he ended up at Kentucky. And after a red shirt for the 2023 season, he was then able to transfer to Northwest Mississippi, where he got plenty of game action with 128 carries, 594 yards, and 3 touchdowns. And so I think he's just looking for a little bit more of an opportunity as well. We'll see what happens. We've got Josan Barbie back. That's a great thing. And hopefully we can build that running back room. But I tell you, Trace, the one that I'm most excited about so far in this recruiting season has been the addition of the VMI wide receiver, Owen Sweeney. He is
Yes.
a 6'4", 200-pound wide receiver, and he's a stud in all reality. VMI is not really a well-known college football program. However, he was able to make some pretty good noise with this last season. Multiple touchdowns, played in every single game. So overall, I think that we're off to a pretty decent start. Oh, I failed to mention this too. This is probably my favorite addition to the recruiting class so far in the portal. Xavier Bolsey, the 6'4", 310-pound offensive lineman from none other than from where our friends up north are, West Virginia University. And so he will be a great addition to our offensive line too. So with that said, you got any thoughts on some of these guys that are coming in?
I'm excited about those guys. Yeah, and those are the guys that I had wrote down and everything. And we also added that one. Let me look it up. Hang on, I had it right here. A 5-star punter. I mean,
Yes.
that's no small thing. Which I mean, granted, we do already have a stud, but like that's nice to have in case maybe Todd would ever think about leaving. So that's a nice one. We got a lot of guys that are scheduled to you know show up and entertain some offers and things like that, and go make some visits. So I think we got a lot of guys on the horizon that really could be big time playmakers. I love the fact that we got some linemen in there. Like I said, Bowlesley, the offensive lineman, I think he's going to be a really good player for us. Can't have too many offensive linemen, can't have too many defensive linemen. So I'm very happy about that. And this is also a non-portal issue, but I think it's really huge that we just found out recently that Daquan Smith's coming back next year. That's no small thing either. He had a great year last year. Guy that's battled a lot of injuries and a lot of things, and he really came on strong last year. And now that he's back, that's going to help our back end a lot more this year, I think. But yeah, I mean, I'm happy with what they've done so far, and there's a lot of other guys that I know we're probably excited about the thought of getting, and I think we'll be sitting pretty, for 2026.
Right. And so, kind of to go off what you just mentioned there a second ago, talk about the kicker, the punter that's coming. So, it's kind of a bittersweet type of thing because usually, whenever you get the noise of, all right, well, we're kind of entertaining some kickers to come in and punters to come in, that usually means that there is going to be some sort of a transition.
Right.
And the way that kickers and different things do the transfer portal is obviously a little bit different. They don't make it as public as other positions do. I don't know why, but I believe that's just the case. So, with that being said, we've got the one that you just mentioned a moment ago that is coming is a 5-star kicker out of high school, ranked 10th in the nation, Cooper Himmelbach. I think that's how you pronounce his name. Forgive me if I did
Yeah.
not. So he is already committed to come, and he likely will be the punter moving forward. But then also, talking about the future and some other visits that are going to take place, we have another 5-star punter that is from the Union Academy, Steven Gonzalez, who is a kicker, and he'll be visiting Marshall on January the 10th. And so this likely means again, I'm not trying to speculate, I'm not trying to put words in people's mouths or anything along those lines, but if you've got a punter and a kicker, both are 5 stars, by the way, coming in, that means that you're probably going to be going out a punter and a kicker. And that's tough for us because both Totten and Quinn were phenomenal this past
Yeah.
season. But I will say, if there was anybody that could follow that up, I'll definitely take 2 5-star prospects. I'll be
Yeah.
okay with that. Yeah, I mean, the worst things have definitely happened. That's for sure.
Mm-hmm.
um, so we've got those two kickers coming. Another thing that is interesting to me is our quarterback room. And the reason why, of course, we just saw Ja'Kai Long leave. And so obviously that means that we're going to sign another quarterback. And in fact, Tony Gibson has already signed a one from high school. Quarterback Dylan Barber from Virginia has committed to Marshall, and he had offers from Army, Navy, and Liberty, and that kind of tells me a couple things about him. Number one, he's probably a smart kid,
Yeah.
and then number two, he's probably quick because all of those offensive schemes prefer a fast quarterback. So that's great. Glad to have a young guy on the roster, but there is a very interesting visit that is going to take place this week, and it is a quarterback by the name of Malachi Marshall, who is a JUCO product of Iowa Western. And Trace, last season, he finished number 3 in total passing in all of JUCO. And I've been a proponent for years, all right? If we're going to get a guy, why don't we go down to a JUCO level? Why don't we go down to an FCS level and find somebody that is just balling out and give them an
Mm-hmm.
opportunity on an FBS level? And so, with that said, that kind of brings up an interesting talking point. Do we see the addition of Malachi Marshall? And if so, do we also see the departure of maybe Carlos Del Rio Wilson, maybe Zion Turner? We don't know. But there has been speculation with Carlos. I'm hearing more and more every day that it's less and less likely. But again, nobody really knows. But what do you think about the whole quarterback situation right now?
Yeah, honestly, I'm kind of torn in between two different thought processes there because on one hand, we did just lose one of our backups, so in theory, you're going to need to sign somebody else to come in to be a possible backup. But then on the other hand, it's like, well, maybe we're only bringing this guy in because we think we're going to lose somebody else. you just it's hard to gather which of those sides is actually true or not. But I mean, heck, I mean, this guy, Malachi Marshall seems like he could be a really solid player, and he kind of reminds me. I no, I'm not saying anything except measurables and build and all that. He kind of reminds me of Cato a little bit. I mean, 170 pounds. Cato was, I mean, that was Cato. When he came in here, he was very under recruited. And it came in, and now he's the all-time leading passer. So, I mean, I'm not predicting that for him for this, new kid, but I'm just saying that like that could happen. We've had a lot of success in the past with guys that are quote unquote undersized. We've had a lot of success in the past with JUCOs. I mean, think about some of those JUCO guys. We've had Neville Hewitt, Conference Player of the Year, defensive. I mean, that's just one guy, and we've had a lot of success with JUCO guys over the years. And I just hope personally that he's here to be the backup or the third string. I mean, at least right now. I mean, I want to see Carlos Del Rio Wilson come back. I just think he could have a really good year this year. But I mean, again, with the portal, would it surprise me if he goes somewhere else? Absolutely not. And it would not. I would not bat an eye at it. He had a good year, and that's going to catch some people's eyes, I'm sure. Hopefully he stays, but if he doesn't, it seems like we have plans in place to try to bring in other guys to fill that void. So that's a good thing. But selfishly, personally, I want him to stay, Del Rio Wilson. I mean, I don't see why you wouldn't at this point, but I think that we've got an interesting dilemma on our hands here, especially if he leaves.
Right, absolutely. And again, Malachi has not committed to Marshall. He just has visited.
Right.
And there was we had last season, if you can recall, a lot of guys come and visit. That just because you visit don't mean anything.
No.
But that is interesting, and I would like to see both be able to be on the same roster. I think that'd be a very interesting thing to think about, because I am impressed with Marshall's game. He's got good tangibles, and like I said, I really just believe in going and finding a lower tier guy and giving them a shot.
Yep.
And that's really been Marshall's MO from the get go. We get the guys that are under recruited. We get the guys that did get overlooked or whatever, and we make them stars. So I'd like to see that happen. Another one that was interesting to me as far as coming to visit today, actually, a running back from Boise State, Breezy
Yeah.
Dubar. I don't know if you saw that, but
Yeah.
he's seen limited playing time overall at Boise, but seems to have some good skill sets and whatnot. And then we've got a whole number of different guys that are coming. I'd say the next notable one would be Eddie Pleasant III. He's a defensive back. He started at Michigan State, then has been at Buffalo. He'll be visiting January the 7th. And then another defensive back from Buffalo as well, Charles MacArthur's. Again, forgive me for saying the name completely wrong. Y'all got. I need to hear somebody say his name. I have no idea how
Right.
to say it the right way, but he'll also be visiting January the 8th, and he is a Buffalo prospect as well. So again, and there's more guys on this list. Um, but overall, so far, we've got three guys that have committed to the herd, a number of guys that are talking points, maybe that are going to be visiting within the next couple of days, and we will just have to see how it all unfolds here very, very soon. But as we have a transfer portal episode, I do think it's very good, and this is something that we could spend, Trace, probably hours on,
Hours.
because we both have a lot of opinions about this. But you think about the transfer portal in today's college football, and I'll just be honest, it's completely broken.
It is.
It is not something that is going to sustain the sport long term. In fact, I would say that it is something that has been hurting the sport the last couple of seasons. And something has got to give. Something has got to change somewhere, some way, somehow. And with that being said, Trace and I, being experts about everything in life, we have decided to be able to give you, the listener, some ideas on how to fix the transfer portal going forward. So, Trace, why don't you begin this conversation here and tell us some ways that you would fix it. And I think a good way to do this is maybe just go back and forth.
Yeah.
Give me a way, then I'll give you a way, and then we'll just keep spitballing back and forth and just see where the conversation takes us. You begin us, though.
All right, I like it. So my first thing that I wrote down is quite simply the easiest fix that you could possibly do. Don't have an open portal window during the season at any point. I don't care. It opened on January 2nd. There were still bowl games going on that day. There's still playoff games going on, and there don't have it open until after the season. I don't care what it takes to. I mean, this is not that taxing. This is not that complicated of a situation. You don't need the portal open during the season. I don't care if there's 2 games. I don't care if there's 20 games. You don't need it open during the season. There needs to be a way to kind of, I don't know how that would work with the academic calendars and all the other stuff, but like you need to get that to where the season's already over. It needs to have started and ended. It does not need to be at any point, any way, shape, form, or fashion during the season. That's about as easy as it gets. But unfortunately, now I will say I'm glad that they got rid of the second window from last year that they had open, but still it's not enough. They need to make it to where it's not during the season at all.
Yes, absolutely. I agree with that 100%. And I'll even add this. If you're going to have a transfer portal window, make it a short one,
Right.
2 to 3 weeks tops. That's all you need. And I think that, like you said, right after the season is over, I say national championship takes place. Give you one day Tuesday. Usually the championship's played on a Monday, and then you get to work on Wednesday. I think
Yeah.
that is completely fair. I think that makes a whole lot more sense than what we're doing because again, you got guys that are going to transfer likely from Oregon, from Ole Miss, from Indiana, from all these places, but haven't because they're in the playoff contention.
Right.
And so as they're in playoff contention, some of the spots that they would fill are being filled by other players right now. And it's just crazy. I just don't understand why they can't just delay the portal a couple more weeks. Makes no sense.
No.
But I 100% agree with the narrowing of that portal window and the time of it and all that stuff. I'll even add this. This is an idea that I've got. I say that there should be a limit on the free transfers per player. So I
Yes.
think players should be limited to at least maybe 1 to 2 transfers throughout their entire career. The only exception to the rule is if their coach leaves, because I understand you come and you play most of the times nowadays for a coach. And so, I completely get that some guys don't want to stay for the program. They don't want to stay for the city. They were brought to that place because simply a coach recruited them. So I get that. But bring back sitting out a season too if you do decide to transfer. I don't know why that ever changed. If you really want to play right away and you really care that much about football, go play JUCO somewhere. You ain't got to sit out in JUCO. Just you
Yeah.
keep on going. And if you really are committed to betting on yourself, then wait a year, or you can also just be faithful to the program that did recruit you and that did give you the opportunity to play, and you can prove your worth where you're at.
Mm-hmm.
So I think limiting your free transfers is very, very key. TJ Finley, I believe, is that
Oh,
famous quarterback. He's at 6 different universities in 6 years, and I think he got eligible for a seventh. Insanity. It makes no
insane.
sense. It makes no sense. So I think limiting your transfers is a very, very big deal that needs to happen.
No, that was exactly my next point. And you said 1 to 2 years, and then you have to sit out. I just said flat out 1 year. You get one freebie. You can go wherever you want after 1 year, but after that, buddy, you got to sit out the next year and then hope that you still have a spot after that. And it's just they're taking advantage of the system. That's just, I was going to literally say TJ Finley. No disrespect to the guy, not whatever, but like, why do you need to be at 6 schools? What is the reason? What is the rationale behind being at 6 schools in a college career? That is just like, I haven't gone to 6 schools my entire life. Not let alone college, my
Right.
entire life. That is just that right there. And I hate to say it because whatever, but like he's the poster child for what is wrong with the system. Like, and it's not even his fault. Like he's allowed to do it. It's the people that put these rules in place. That's the problem, and it's just it's unheard of that a guy would be at that many schools in that short amount of time. And it's like I don't know. I just can't fathom it. And another thing that I would say, and this I didn't really write this down, but I think that if you come out and say this is kind of selfish too, but if you come out and say, yeah, I'm going to stay where I am, nope, you're staying. You cannot at that point. You cannot transfer anywhere else. You cannot enter the portal. If you say that you're staying, you're staying. That's one thing I would say, but I know that's probably never going to happen. But that's one thing I would do as well. But yeah, I think as far as the amount of times you can do the portal and use it, one time free shot. After that, wherever you go, you sit out a year and then you wait.
Right. And to your point there, I 100% agree. I think it's an easy fix. You know, I think that there should be a place in the calendar year where you have to commit one way or the other.
Yeah.
You're either you're signing back with your team or you are going into the transfer portal. There is no in betweens. And if for whatever reason you get in the portal and things don't work out, well, then you're out of luck because you didn't sign back with your team and your team
Right.
probably found a player to fill your position. And so, you know, you're going to have to go from the bottom of the barrel type of programs and work your way back up. I think that's fair because it is a bet on yourself. You know, you
Mm-hmm.
are gambling, so to speak, with your career because a lot of these guys are in a stable situation and then they want to go and try and find a better place that they think is out there. So I don't think that's unfair. I think that's absolutely reasonable. I also, I don't know if you listened to the whole thing or not, but some stuff that John Calipari had said the other
Oh,
day was amazing, and that's saying something because John Calipari, whenever he is the voice of reason, that's bad. Okay,
it's bad.
he is a controversial figure by a lot of means, but I think that it's the equivalent of a parent trying to tell their children to eat their vegetables, and that the NCAA needs to help these guys remember that they are indeed student athletes first.
Right.
Because we need to make sure that these guys are getting an education. Right now, I guarantee you that most of the guys they will take the smallest and least resistant classes just so that they can play football and go to the league one day and have these aspirations and desires. And who cares? I'm making NIL money, and so I'm going to be set for life. But John Calipari said it the other day, whenever you don't make it to the league, and by the way, the vast majority of people don't make it to the league or any professional league after their football playing days are done, and you got a degree basically in underwater basket weaving, well, that's not really
Yeah.
going to help you a whole lot. So you have two
Mm-hmm.
options. You can either struggle and make it just barely, or you can go back to school and spend 2 or 3 more years, quote unquote, wasting your time in something that you could have had from the start.
Right.
And so I think it's very, very vital that we, or not we, but those that are in charge, educate these young men of saying, listen, football's wonderful. NIL's great. I mean, it's awesome to make money playing a football game. That's wonderful. But the majority of guys that are making money right now, they're not going to be making money whenever they graduate. They're not going to make it to the league. They're not going to make
No.
it to that next level. And the problem with everybody is this: it's never going to be me, right? I'm going to
Right.
be that one. I'm going to be that statistic that's small that makes a name for myself. But there needs to be a lot better, I guess, education overall to players today and helping them understand that you probably don't want to be a janitor the rest of your life.
Right.
And you transferring to 6 different schools like DJ Family, or just 3 schools or 2 schools, whatever, you don't have a real tie with your university. So if you wanted to get into coaching, well, it's going to be a little bit harder for you because you never developed relationships that you needed to have to get in those positions. So I think there needs to be a whole lot more education player side from the upper crust, and I don't know where exactly that would come from. Obviously, we don't have a commissioner for college football. It may be the commissioners of the conferences coming together to educate. I don't know, but I think that desperately is needed today.
desperately, and that's a nice little segue because I was just thinking in my head, and I was going to say it on here. College football is the ultimate inmates running the asylum. That's what college football is, and it's like nobody wants to. Nobody NCAA. Nobody wants to make any tough decisions. Nobody. They're afraid of blowback from everybody else. So it's like there's nobody in control. There's nobody in charge. So it's like the commissioners of the Big Ten and the SEC and whatever, they can just run roughshod. And if they're coming out smelling like roses, they don't give a crap about anybody else. It's like screw everybody else. If it was up to some of these people, there would be about a 2 or 3 team conference, or about a 2 or 3 conference, college football, and that'd be it. Everybody else would be gone, done. They could care less. So it's like you're not, that's not beneficial. That's not helping anything, and it's just sad. It's quite frankly sad. But my point I was going to bring up next was now this one has to do more with NIL, but if you sign an NIL deal, you are legally binded to stay at that school for X amount of time. So if you sign I don't know, let's just think of something, a 2-year, $5 million NIL deal with somebody, you're there for 2 years. It doesn't matter what it is. You are there for 2 years. And you don't go anywhere else. You have to stay there. And I know that this probably isn't doable either, but geez almighty, I would absolutely love if there was something in place in that said rule where you can't just willy-nilly sit out games anymore, because that is what killed bowl season right there, is opt-outs and all that kind of garbage. That has killed bowl season. And I have always loved bowl season, always will. But that is what started the death. Well, you say death, but they've got good ratings. We've seen that recently. Bowl games still sell. But that has what killed the perception of bowl season, is all these players sitting out and, just quitting on your team. And like, I get it. You're worried about getting hurt. I get it. But at the same time, you signed up to play football. You can get hurt at any given time, no matter what game you play. A bowl game is supposed to be a reward for your team. It's supposed to be like a culmination of the season, of all the work you put in. And you're just sitting out, that kind of just kills it. So that's what I would do there. If you sign on to however much you want to sign on to, for however much NIL money you're going to get, your butt staying there the whole time at that you don't get the money all at one time. You have to stay there for however many, like if it's like I said, 2 years, 3 years, whatever it is, you're there the whole time. And, I liked your point earlier. This is kind of just a side note, but I liked your point earlier about the money situation now and how it's not necessarily going to set you up long term. Money is very fleeting. And especially with NIL, like if your name's not Arch Manning or somebody like that, you're not going to make enough money to live off of from NIL. It is very fleeting. And I would rather stay at a place where you might not have hardly any NIL money, like Marshall or wherever. I'd rather stay there, work my butt off, and get really, really good, like Mike Green, and then get drafted in the second round of the NFL draft, then make your money, because that's long term. That's setting yourself up long term. If you get this money now and you never even sniff the league and you never even sniff even playing at the school you go to, how's that helping you? That's not helping you. So there you go. I don't know. That's all I got there.
Yeah, give me NIL contracts. I mean, that's the simple thing here.
Yeah.
Kids forfeited the right to be declared kids in college sports the day that they accepted the money.
Absolutely.
These are no longer kids, they are young men. And if you want to make money, great. If you want to be rich and famous for a couple of years, fantastic. But just as any business or any professional league for that matter too, there has to be a set of standards that you need to follow if you desire to make your money. NIL deals should be paid out on a yearly basis. And just like contracts today, just like NFL, just like MLB, just like NBA, and you want more NIL money from your school that you have signed with, stay longer, right?
Yeah.
Assign a 2 to 3 to maybe even sometimes 4 years. I'm not leaving no matter what type of deal. And those deals can give you more money long term. If you want to be a mercenary and just pop in, pop out wherever you want to go, sign your 1 year deal. But understand, just like it is in professional sports, you're probably not going to make as much money as some of these other guys do,
Oh yeah.
that are staying and that are going to stay faithful to that particular program. So if you want flexibility, that's completely fine. But just know that your 1 year deal is not going to be as valuable long term for you than if you would stay for a couple of years in that particular place. And
Yeah.
I think NIL contracts are it's a no brainer. We know how much money everybody in the NFL makes. Like we know how much the second string center for the Ravens makes. It's easy. We just got to look it up. I think the
Yeah.
same should be said for college football because there are so much millions of dollars that are put into this product, and now we're paying you. And so let's have contracts. If we're going to go into this, then let's go all the way in. Another idea that I've got is having a cap roster turnover. So, what I mean by that is each team should only be permitted to bring in around 10 to 12 transfers per year. And the reason I say that is because it's going to eliminate a lot of situations that we saw with Marshall a couple of years ago. Players won't leave if there's not as many guaranteed spots for them to make a name for their own selves.
Yeah.
It's a lot easier for me if I'm a player and I want to play in the Power Four, and Texas is going to give me an offer, but they're also giving five other guys an offer too from all over the country. I still have a chance, right? I can be that defensive lineman. I can be that linebacker or running back or whatever you want to put there. Because if you just get me on the field, then I'm going to have an opportunity. But if you start eliminating those opportunities and you have it pretty good where you're at, you're going to stay the course, right? So I think that if you put down a limit to 10, 12, however, you can put whatever number on that, then you're going to no longer see things that Marshall saw last season, things that
Right.
Iowa State are seeing this season, where we see this mass exodus of just players gone completely. There's just got to be a better regulation of the players coming and going somehow, some way.
Yeah.
So that's my point on that.
No, that's exactly that's a great point. I mean, that's really what needs to happen. I mean, quite frankly, all these things need to happen, but until anybody wants to be a boss and wants to be in charge, we're just going to sit here and talk about it. But hey, I like talking about it, so we're going to keep doing it. But my next point is, and I think you kind of alluded to it just now, put a salary cap on NIL. I mean, you can't go from, and again, this I said it earlier. The Big Ten, the SEC, all these Power Four leagues, the commissioners, they don't give two craps about anybody else as long as they come out on top and they come out smelling like roses. They don't care. So you've got guys, you got teams that are Ohio States and your Texases and your Alabamas and your Georgias and your whoever, $20+ million NIL budgets. You got other programs with like under $1 million NIL budget. I mean, I know there's levels. I get it, but there needs to be some type of a cap. But again, that's not going to happen because they just want to keep coming out on top and they just want to keep bringing in all the players and having all the money. So they're not going to be willing to do that. But I'm saying that needs to happen. We need like a commissioner. I mean, every freaking league in the world has a commissioner or somebody in charge. The NCAA, we're just stuck with a bunch of just sitting on your hands yes men. I mean, we don't even have anybody in charge. So it's like that's the problem. And all the big time conferences, the big two, they just like to dictate everything that happens. So they're not going to be willing to say, yeah, we'll cap our NIL budget. We'll cap it at $10 million. You think they're going to? No, they're not going to do that. But should they, and should that be in place? Absolutely, it should be in place. But again, that's probably far-fetched at this point. But I think that's a great idea. And I'm sure that there's somebody smart out there that could make it happen, make it work, because at this rate, the smaller schools, the group of five schools, the whatever, they're just starting to slowly fade away from the bigger schools because you just cannot, you don't have any players enough to compete with these schools. And it's it never used to be the case. You always used to live off of the upsets and stuff, but now you almost never see that anymore because one school's got heavily invested in NIL, the other school doesn't have the funds to do it. So I think they should salary cap it. I think it should be fair, but again, we're talking about college football, so it's not going to be fair.
Yeah, and you just mentioned it. It's never going to be fair, but I do believe it could be fairer.
Fairer.
And I think the way that it should be set up, and if it, I doubt it ever will, but the way that it should be is you do this per conference. This is why your conference, leaders get paid.
Mm-hmm.
The SEC and the Big Ten are never going to sit back and say, "Well, I'm going to just forfeit my opportunity to, compete at the highest level."
No.
That's okay, and they're always going to have more money than everybody else. But I think what would make college football more competitive, baseline everybody, is this: take your conference commissioners and say, "Okay, the Big Ten, this is our salary cap." The SEC, this is our salary cap. G6 together, this is our own salary cap. And what this will do is it will level the playing field. Ohio State is not going to be able to buy every single player. They'll be
Right.
able to buy most because we don't want to make them mad and all that. We have to appease them if we're ever going to get total fairness across the board.
Right.
So if you're an SEC team and you're Texas and whatnot, you're still going to be at the top of the totem pole. If you're in a Big Ten, you're going to be at the top of the totem pole. But then after that, you're going to have a lesser, probably, of a salary cap with the ACC and the Big 12. And then you got a lesser than that, too, with the G6. And it still won't be totally fair across the board. It never will be. That's just how college football is set up now, but it will make it fairer. And I think that you would even see some of the upsets that we were used to seeing years ago. Like, it wasn't surprising to see a small team knock off one of the giants every now and then.
Yeah.
And now it's non existent. The playoffs now, everybody said, oh, well, the G6, they just shouldn't have been there whatsoever. And that's another story for another day. But
Yeah.
overall, I think that if you can make it a little bit more fair across the board, the entire landscape of college football will be more competitive. Iowa now can compete with Ohio State because they're under the same salary cap. Vanderbilt will be able to compete with Oklahoma and Texas because they're under the same salary cap, and so on and so forth. So I think that if you have that baseline, you have your conference leaders make whatever number stick for your conference, then you can move forward overall in a lot better of a situation. And if you're a G6 team like us, we would even be happy with that because now it's fair for everybody in the league.
Yeah.
Marshall's never going to have the most NIL money. But if we have a salary cap, we can meet that number and we can
Mm-hmm.
compete with James Madison completely easily and App State and all these other teams that make more in NIL than what we do. So that's my idea there, kind of piggybacking off of what you just said. I think another good thing for us to think about is this: we need to find a way to restrict tampering.
Yes.
Um,
Yes.
Tampering, it just happens. It's everywhere. I saw a tweet today, I think, from the head coach at Stetson University calling out just completely Appalachian State because they're calling players that they didn't have authorization to call just yet.
Mm-hmm.
So it just happens. That's the nature of college football. I say this: make that illegal to the point where it really matters if you do these things.
Right.
Take away scholarships, right? If you're
Mm-hmm.
caught tampering with another player, literally take away that ability to sign that particular player. And also this, I would even go as far as making this a fireable offense of your head coach if they
Mm-hmm.
are caught doing this, because it's just created such a mess. I mean, you've got guys that they're getting mid-season, right? They're 6 games into the season and they're getting calls from other universities and different things of saying, "Hey, are you thinking about next year just yet?"
Yeah.
And when you're taking young men that are, like we talked about, they're wanting money, they desire to chase the mighty dollar, they're just going to go wherever the wind tells them to go, wherever that money is.
Mm-hmm.
So we got to find a better way to really hone out and stamp out tampering once and for all.
That I didn't even think of that, and I didn't have that wrote down, but that is absolutely something that needs to happen. I mean, just speaking more personally about Marshall, just think about how many of those players from 2024 had Huff and all those guys in their ear for probably multiple weeks. And that's in the middle of a championship like run. You
Yeah.
just think about that. I mean, it's probably astronomically high, the number of players that probably even before, I mean, probably way before the Sun Belt title game that year had already decided they were going to go. I mean,
Hmm.
I would say probably half the team probably knew that at that point. And it's like we're just sitting here, just as a school and as a program, whatever, to pick up the pieces, and that's just not fair. That's not right. That's not moral. That's we're college football, it's supposed to, that's always been the thing. And I think Northern Illinois' coach before the season had probably my favorite soundbite ever when it came to the portal and the NIL stuff. It's on Twitter. Y'all can find it. It's on YouTube, whatever. But college football and college sports in general, I feel like, now because when you bring money into anything, like I said, it just sours everything. Money's the root of all evil. That's the saying, right? And I feel like now that we're losing the principles of what made the sport great in the first place. You know, you think Byron Leftwich was worrying about NIL money when he was getting carried down the field and leaving to go to the hospital and coming back mid game? I mean, that's you can say whatever and say that he wasn't thinking about himself. He was whatever. That creates legends. That creates guys that will. I mean, that's something that's way bigger than any of us. That's something that's way bigger than themselves. And we're losing sight of, just basic life principles, loyalty, uh, overcoming the odds, working hard, blah, 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 blah. We're losing track of all of these basic things that every man or woman walking the face of the earth will have to have at some point. We're losing track of that. It's greed, it's selfishness, and I get it. A lot of these players will probably never sniff any kind of real money playing football in their life. I get it. But you also, like I said, that money, that 200K or that 300K or whatever it is for some of these lower, mid majors, that money's fleeting. That money could be gone in a heartbeat. And after that, what are you left with? Nothing. You probably don't have a degree at that point. You're not playing the NFL. What do you have? I mean, you have to think about it long term. It's just everybody just thinks in the moment now. It's not just college football, it's society in general. Everybody just thinks right now it's a moment. They don't think about things long term. And we got a lot of people that are not looking out for these 18 to 22-year-old kids or young men, whatever you want to look at. They're not looking out for them. They don't have their best interest in mind. And we're seeing the end result of that in a lot of ways. So, boom, there you go.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's only getting worse. It's just it's building on top of itself, and we're just seeing more and more examples like this take shape. And
Mm-hmm.
like you said, something's got to give. I've got one more little suggestion here, and I don't know if you got anything else or not, but here is my last one, and I think it would be wise as we have like I just mentioned in my last point, having conferences make your salary cap. Well, along with that, let's do this. Let's have a mandatory, every single league puts in a certain amount, dollar amount, into a collective that is going to be used for the players who do leave early, especially if they are to transfer within their own conference. And so let's say player A is making such and such amount of money and they decide to go, they're in the Big Ten, they're playing at Indiana, and they decide to go play at Ohio State. And they decide to make that decision within the year and different things, and before they totally meet their contract obligations with their NIL. Well, what happens is this. Yeah, they sure can go play if they do that one or two, however many the number would be as far as being able to transfer. But that school that lost the player from that collective pot gets that NIL money back. So
That's a good
if
idea.
they break their contract, then what that university is able to do is, number one, not pay that player, but also number two, rake in a little bit more money for their own selves as well.
Yeah.
And again, that just stops this kind of stuff. I mean, you're not going to see guys, cross the board trying to take players away, because now you got conference commissioners breathing down the necks of the university saying, "Listen, you can't do that. It's costing us money. You're creating more chaos for our own particular conference." So again, that's something that'll never happen, because it will create so much inner turmoil, and there'll be problems between universities and conferences and different stuff. But I guarantee you it would eliminate a lot of issues and problems as far as players leaving early without meeting their obligations of an NIL contract.
Yeah, exactly. And that's a great plan. That's a great idea, quite frankly. I mean, that would be very helpful to teams like Marshall from last year, 2024, whenever we lost so many players. That would have been nice to have had in place right there, for sure. But my last thing, and this isn't necessarily as much about NIL or transfer portal as it is just something I want to see happen, but I think it could kind of tie in, I guess. But I want to see, and I don't know if it's going to happen or not. I don't know if it ever will. I want to see a 24 team college football playoff. I want to see 24 teams. I don't care how you go about picking them. I mean, I would just say all the conference champions go, but that would be too fair. So that's not going to happen. But highest ranked conference champions are in. Everybody else is at larges, So at that point, that would make a lot of the bowl games. That would, they would have to use more of the traditional normal bowl games to fill that 24 teams. And then the rest of the bowl games that are left over, quite frankly, a lot of those could go to the group of five, because group of five teams are really the ones now primarily that benefit more from bowl season than anybody else, because we see so many power conference teams, just, oh, my feelings got hurt, I'm going to sit out, or we're just going to bow out, Notre Dame, and well, we'll just sit it out because we didn't get what we wanted. It's like, think of how many teams would kill to be in that situation. I mean, think about how many teams would love to have that money coming in. So if you want to do that, I think that would be more fair for the group of five to have a little bit more, bowl opportunities. And then, quite frankly, I mean, the 24 teams, that's a more accurate representation of the overall body of the FBS. Because if you think about college basketball, I've done the percentage. I don't remember what it is. It's like 19%, I think, about 19% of Division I college basketball get to compete for the national title and the big dance. So that would be about the same amount percentage wise in college football. I don't see what's wrong with that. I mean, it's not going to probably happen, and it's probably not, if you want to throw in your same team, the same teams are going to make it in regardless. So it doesn't really matter how many teams are in the playoff, but that would be good, I think, as well, to help. And it would be good for the group of five, like I said, to get more bowl opportunities and more, kind of exposure in that regard. So that's not really anything to do with NIL necessarily, but I just think that would be nice to see.
Yeah, a number of years ago, whenever the playoff system began, I loved it. I love the idea of it. I love the opportunity that it would create, that I thought for all of college football. If you're good enough to be in that top four, then you can accurately compete for a national championship. And it's just not been that way. It's just not. It's always been an uphill battle if you're a smaller program. If you're a smaller Power Four program that's made it, like, since, well, they were in the American at the time, but Cincinnati a couple of years ago is a good example. TCU, another good
Yeah.
example. It's an uphill battle. And I'm gonna be honest, I totally and terribly miss the BCS.
Yeah.
I wish it'd come back, because I loved the talking points the BCS made. What made college football so special was the fact that we could talk smack without knowing exactly who was the best.
Right.
UCF has a sign on their stadium saying that they won the national championship when they did not play in the national championship.
Yep.
I love that. I mean, a lot of people hate that. A lot of people say that's stupid, and it is stupid, but that's what makes college football special.
Mm-hmm.
And then when you had meaningful bowl games, because, yeah, you're only going to have two teams throughout the entire country playing for that top spot, but there are other games that matter, just a whole lot for the pride of your university. And man, if I could go back in time and change anything, I think it would be, let's not do a playoff. And that's crazy, because, like I said, whenever it started, I was all for the playoff. I was like, this is the greatest thing ever. But
Yeah.
it has created so many different controversies and issues and problems that I'm just sick of it, quite frankly. I don't know if you expand it to 24, there's still going to be a way that the big conferences are going to say, all right, well, we ought to just have our entire conference get in there
Oh
sometime,
yeah.
you
Oh
know?
yeah.
So they're always trying to push out the lower tier schools. And it's always going to be that way. And I miss the BCS. I wish that we could bring it back tomorrow. That would be wonderful.
It would 100%. Looking back, it wasn't as bad as we thought it was. It really
No,
wasn't. I
no,
mean,
absolutely not. Well, now that we have solved the world's problems and we would become the greatest college football commissioners if the powers that be would give us that opportunity. And by the way, we're both available. So if
we're
anybody's listening
available.
to this, we would love to be able to take over and just show y'all how this is done. But
Yep.
that's neither here nor there. Shameless plug over. Let's talk a little bit of basketball, and then we'll wrap up today's episode. Great weekend overall for Marshall as far as the hoops are concerned. Men's basketball had a great win over Appalachian State, got their 10th win of the season. There's 16 more games to go this year, and quite frankly, looking at the schedule, they easily could win 10 more of those, if not more. Marshall is in the driver's seat, even that I would say, as far as making a very good run this year across the board. And they've got a tough road game coming up on Wednesday against James Madison. James Madison is not as tough as what they used to be, however, still playing there no matter what. It's always going to be a little difficult, and they'll wrap up this weekend playing in Atlanta at Georgia State against a pretty weak Georgia State team. So they should be able to take care of business there. So, Trace, looking where we're at now, 10 wins in this brand new year, 16 more games on the schedule. What are we thinking? Where we think we're going to end up here by the end of this basketball season as we're looking forward to conference play?
Yeah, I mean, I still have the same expectation that I had before. I still think we're a 20-win ball club. I don't want to see that. I mean, I'd like to see closer to 25 maybe, but I mean, not maybe not regular season, but if we go on a run and then, win some games in the Sun Belt tournament and maybe get to a big dance or whatever, that'd be awesome. But like, I'd love to see that. Over the last few games, they played pretty well overall. Had to kind of grind one out against Georgia State at home, which kind of wasn't the greatest feeling ever because they're not very good. But I mean, there's not a huge difference between a lot of these Sun Belt teams, honestly. Like you could look at some of the bottom. There's some of those bottom teams that are really bad, but some of them are a little more competitive than others. And Georgia State, I feel like, is kind of one of those more competitive bad teams. If that makes any sense. But so I don't think they're that horrible. And then we beat App State, like you said, that was a great win. I mean, sound like it was an electric atmosphere there at the Cam. You love to see that. And once it starts getting filled up more and more with these Saturday night home games coming up, it's going to be good. It's going to be really good. And we're sitting there at 10-5. 2-1 in the league. We're in a pretty good position there in Sun Belt play. So I think we got a good chance to go on a run. And I want to see us at least get a first round bye in the Sun Belt tournament or a double bye, whatever. However they do it now. It's like a weird, double bye thing, but I'd like to see that. But yeah, I mean, I think we got a chance. I mean, I think night in, night out, we have a chance every single night. I think we can beat anybody that we play. Doesn't mean we will, but I think we can. And, that's a good sign moving forward. So I look forward to what they can do the rest of the way. A couple big road games coming up. I'd like to get both of those wins and then get home and really have a big crowd, I think. So
Yeah,
that's, yeah.
yeah, and that's key. Yeah, both games, on paper they should win this week. They should take care of James Madison. They should take care of Georgia State. Like on paper, it should not be a big deal. But that's been the problem with Marshall, though. Sometimes
Yeah.
they'll go on the road and they'll lay an egg against a team that they should have taken care of business against. So that's going to be key this season, winning the games that they should be winning.
Right.
Because, like you just said, if they're able to get two more wins on the road this week, man, by next week the Cam will be hopping.
Mm-hmm.
And when the Cam is going to be as electric as it will be, it's tough to beat them there. I mean, I'm telling you, it's just that there's not a whole lot of other environments whenever it is on fire that is better than the Cam Henderson Center.
Oh yeah.
So they got to take care of business this week. It's a big week, really. Again, teams that they should beat, and we'll just have to see how that goes tomorrow and also on Saturday. And then very quickly, I just want to make this note before we end the show today. Our women's team is on fire. 8 wins
Fire.
in a row, tied for first place in the conference right now, sitting at 13-3, along with Arkansas State. And for all of you fans listening, I know that we go out and we support our men all the time, and that's never been an issue. But I could arguably tell you that the last couple of seasons that we've seen incredibly special basketball teams from our women's.
Yep.
And I would encourage all of our fans to try your best to get to the Cam and go watch you one of these latest games because they're exciting. They play fast. They're up
Hmm.
tempo. It's good basketball, and so it's an exciting time to be a women's fan here. 13-3 is nothing to sniff at, and they are right there in the driver's seat to do whatever they want to do in the conference this year.
Absolutely. I mean, you got to look at what they where they were last year. Going in, had kind of like similar to football was this year. Lost so many people, lost the coach. They kind of had to rebuild it back up. But man, they got it rebuilt in season, like before the season ended. We talked about that tournament, that Sun Belt tournament run they went on. That was one of the best moments of the year, 2025, and that carried over. And like you said, sitting there now at 13-3. I don't remember what the graphic said, but it's their best start to the season since roughly 15-ish years ago. I don't remember what the graphic said, but it's been a hot minute. Even that team 2 years ago that was so good with Kim Caldwell, they didn't start this well. So, they're really playing well. They can, just much like the men's team, I think they can beat anybody on any given night. They even picked up a couple of nice road wins. That Coastal Carolina game was freaking dramatic as all get out, the way they won that one, and then beating App State too. So they played really well here. I mean, 8 straight wins. So I'm looking forward to what they can do the rest of the year. I'd love to see them get back to that Sun Belt championship level. I mean, they might be there. I don't know. We'll see.
Right. Yep. So, with that being said, that is the end of our episode today. We want to say again, thank you to everybody who's taken the time to listen today and made it this far in the podcast. And we are looking forward to seeing you again next week. Until then, go herd. And also, please make sure that you try your best to support us and our podcasting journey. Follow us on social media. If you've got any questions that you would like for us to discuss, we'd love to be able to hear from you. Just DM our accounts, message myself or Trace personally, and we'd love to be able to do that in a future episode. With that said, have a wonderful rest of your day. Again, Happy New Year to everybody, and go herd.
Go herd.